Hello everyone and welcome to the Unanswered Questions True Crime Podcast.
I have spent hours and hours investigating this.
He basically told her that people have been killed. Journalists, independent investigators, people like that disappeared. It frightened her to the bone.
There's more to the story than meets the eye.
There were rumors of torture and homicide and sexual abuse, all sorts of egregious, horrendous crimes.
He was polygraphed 3 times. Each of those 3 showed evasions.
His resumes were a skeleton of truth.
He was mad at the world, and particularly mad at the government.
The study that he commissioned had described a fictional terrorist attack.
If people have died over this, it means you're getting close to the truth.
You don't have to be a conspiracy theorist to say, what the fuck?
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of my new podcast, Unanswered Questions, where every week we will endeavour to discuss a mysterious unsolved case that has many lingering unanswered questions. So I hope you enjoy, and as always, leave me some feedback on what you think about the show and rate it as well. Now on to the show. This week we'll be talking about the infamous American sniper Chris Kyle. Christopher Scott Kyle, born April 8th of 1974 and died February 2nd of 2013, was a United States Navy SEAL sniper. He served 4 tours in the Iraq War and was awarded several commendations for acts of heroism and meritorious service in combat. He has 160 confirmed kills and was awarded the Silver Star, 3 Bronze Star medals with V devices for valor, and Navy and Marine Corps Achievement Medal with V device, as well as numerous other unit and personal awards. Kyle was honorably discharged from the US Navy in 2009 and published his best-selling autobiography American Sniper in 2012. An eponymous film adaptation of Kyle's book, directed by Clint Eastwood and starring Bradley Cooper as Kyle, was released 2 years later. In 2013, Kyle was murdered by Eddie Ray Routh at the Rough Creek Lodge shooting range near Chalk Mountain, Texas. Routh, a former Marine with post-traumatic stress disorder or PTSD, was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison with no possibility of parole. Now we get into Kyle's early life and education. Christopher Scott Kyle was born on April 8th of 1974 in Odessa, Texas, the oldest of 2 boys born to Deborah Lynn Nee Mercer and Wayne Kenneth Kyle, a Sunday school teacher and deacon. His father bought Kyle his first rifle at the age of 8, a bolt-action .30-06 Springfield rifle, and later a shotgun with which they hunted deer, pheasant, and quail. Kyle and his brother grew up raising up to 150 head of cattle at a time. Kyle attended high school in, and I'm going to butcher this name, Midlothian, Texas, and after graduating in 1992, became a professional bronco rider and ranch hand. However, his professional rodeo career ended abruptly when he severely injured his arm. So much so that he had to have pins put in it. He attended Tarleton State University for 2 years, that being 1992 to 1994, studying ranch and range management. Now we get into his military career. Kyle went to a military recruiting office as he was interested in joining the US Marine Corps Special Operations. A US Navy recruiter, however, convinced him to try instead for the SEALs. He enlisted in the United States Navy on August 5th of 1998 and began basic training on February 10th of 1999. He graduated from basic training at Naval Station Great Lakes, Illinois in April of 1999. He attended additional training as an intelligence specialist at MNITC Dam Neck, Virginia, from April to July of 1999, and at NPC Millington, Tennessee from August 1999 to March 2000. Initially, Kyle was rejected because of the pins in his arm, but he eventually received an invitation to the 24-week basic underwater demolition/sea air land SEAL training BUDS at NAB Coronado, California. Kyle graduated with Class 233 in March of 2001, followed by SEAL qualification training SQT at NAB Coronado from May to August of 2001. Assigned to SEAL Team 3 Sniper Element Platoon Charlie, later Cadillac, within the Naval Special Warfare Command, and with 4 tours of duty, Kyle served in many major battles of the Iraq War. His first long-range kill shot was taken during the initial invasion when he shot a woman carrying a hand grenade approaching a group of Marines. CNN reported the woman was cradling a toddler in her other hand. As ordered, Kyle opened fire, killing the woman before she could attack. Now we come to his career as a military sniper. Kyle proved to be an effective sniper in Iraq with a large number of confirmed and unconfirmed kills. Kyle's shooter's statements, which are filled out by every sniper after a mission, were reported to higher command, who kept them in case any shootings were contested as outside the rules of engagement. The publisher HarperCollins states, and I quote, "The Pentagon has officially confirmed more than 150 of Kyle's kills. The previous American record was 109, but it has declined to verify the total number for this book." End quote. In his autobiography, Kyle wrote, "The Navy credits me with more kills as a sniper than any other American service member, past or present." I guess that's true. They go back and forth on what the number is. 1 week, it's 160, the official number as of this writing for what that's worth. Then it's way higher. Then it's somewhere in between. If you want a number, ask the Navy. You may even get the truth if you catch them on the right day. End quote. On July 8th of 2016, the US Navy corrected Kyle's DD Form 214 regarding some decorations listed on his original discharge document. The original discharge papers issued to him upon leaving the service tally with the account given in his autobiography, that being 2 silver stars and 5 bronze stars with valor. The Navy revised it to 1 silver star and 4 bronze stars with valor. The Navy said Kyle would have played no role in the production of his personnel files other than signing the DD 214 upon his discharge, and after thoroughly reviewing all available records, the Navy determined an error was made and issued a corrected copy of the DD 214. End quote. Now we get into the weapons that he used. While in training, Kyle used 4 different rifles in order to know which weapon was the most useful in the given situation. In the field, he used the following: a semi-automatic 7.62 NATO Mk11 sniper rifle, Patrol, a 5.56 NATO Mk12 designated marksman rifle modified with the lower receiver of an M4A1 to get a collapsible stock and allow full auto fire, Urban Patrol, a Remington 700/300 later type classified as a Mk13 Mod 1 300 Winchester Magnum sniper rifle with Macmillan stock and customized barrel, which was later replaced with a 300 Winchester Magnum Accuracy International, and various rifles chambered in .338 Lapua Magnum used for long-range shooting. Now we get into his post-military life. Kyle left the US Navy in 2009 and moved to Midlothian, Texas, I do apologize if I get that name wrong, with his wife Taya and 2 children. He was president of Craft International, a tactical training company for the US military and law enforcement communities. In 2012, HarperCollins released Kyle's autobiography, American Sniper. Kyle had initially hesitated to write the book, but was persuaded to move forward because other books about SEALs were underway at the time. In his book, Kyle wrote bluntly of his experiences of the battle for control of sorry if I get that name wrong, he says, and I quote, "Force moved that battle. We killed the bad guys and brought the leaders to the peace table. That's how the world works." End quote. In the book and ensuing interviews, Kyle stated he had no regrets about his work as a sharpshooter, saying, and I quote, "I had to do it to protect the Marines." End quote. American Sniper had a 37-week run on the New York Times bestseller list and brought Kyle national attention. Following its release, media articles challenged some of Kyle's anecdotes, but the core of his narrative was widely accepted. Tales of his heroism on the battlefield were already law in every branch of the armed forces, writes Michael J. Mooney, author of a biography of Kyle. Now we get into the American Sniper book that Kyle wrote. American Sniper, the autobiography of the most lethal sniper in US military history, is a work of autobiographical creation non-fiction by United States Navy SEAL Chris Kyle, written with Scott McEwen and Jim DeFelsey. I'm sorry if I get those names wrong. The book was published by William Morrow and Company on January 2nd of 2012 and appeared on the New York Times bestseller list for 37 weeks. The memoir has sold over 1.2 million copies across all formats, that being hardcover, paper, and ebook, including 700,000 copies in 2015 alone, making it one of the best-selling books of 2015. It landed atop all the major bestsellers lists, including the aforementioned The New York Times, as well as Publishers Weekly and USA Today, and it reached number 2 on Amazon. Its film adaptation, directed by Clint Eastwood and starring actor Bradley Cooper as Kyle, was released in 2014. Now we get into the plot overview. American Sniper tells the story of Chris Kyle, a Navy SEAL who completed 4 tours in Iraq from 1999 to 2009. The book describes Kyle's upbringing in Odessa, Texas, Navy SEAL training, and combat experiences in Iraq. Carl describes his role in the battle for control of Ramadi events that led to Iraqi insurgents nicknaming Carl the Devil of Ramadi and placing a bounty on his head. He writes that after his first confirmed kill, quote, "The others come easy. I don't have to psych myself up or do something special mentally. I look through the scope, get my target in the crosshairs, and kill my enemy before he kills one of my people." Now we get into the memorial edition. In 2013, after Carl's death, a memorial edition was published which includes more than 80 pages of remembrances by his parents, his wife Taya, his brother, lifelong friends, Marcus Luttrell, and other fellow SEALs, veterans and wounded warriors, and many others. Carl paired with Fitco Cares Foundation, a non-profit organisation which created the Heroes Project to provide free and-home fitness equipment, individualised programs, personal training and life coaching to in-need veterans with disabilities, Gold Star families or those with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. On August 13th of 2012, Carl appeared on the reality television show Stars Earn Stripes, which featured celebrities pairing up with a special operations or law enforcement professional who trained them in weapons and combat tactics. Carl was teamed with actor Dean Cain. Now we get into the controversies of Chris Carl's book. First, we start with the Jesse Ventura defamation lawsuit, which is the most well-known of the controversies surrounding Chris Carl and his book American Sniper. In his book American Sniper, Carl wrote a subchapter titled Punching Out Scruff Face about an alleged altercation in a bar. In the book, he claims he punched a man he refers to as Scruff Face for allegedly saying, quote, "You deserve to lose a few guys," end quote, and being critical of the Iraq War. According to Carl, the encounter took place at McPee's, a bar in Coronado, California, on October 12th of 2006, during a wake for Carl's comrade Michael A. Moonsaw, a U.S. Navy SEAL who had been killed in Iraq. Petty Officer Moonsaw was posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor on April 8th of 2008 for his actions in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom on September 29th of 2006. On February 4th of 2012, Carl appeared on Opie and Anthony to discuss his book. On the show, Carl alleged the character Scruff in his book is former governor of Minnesota, Jesse Ventura.
There's someone on the line saying that you were in a bar fight with Jesse Ventura. Is that true?
God, probably, is it?
Yes.
Oh, shit.
Oh, let's get into this.
Yeah, I would like to
talk about it?
I was going to ask you how you felt about it.
Because we I don't know. How do you explain
there
this?
There was a verbal altercation in here.
But he used to come on our show and it was all right. We didn't agree with a lot of the stuff he said, but we had an okay.
Thank you for your service.
But then we had a moment where he walked off our show because we just killed him with knowledge.
Yeah,
we really did.
A big argument.
Especially Jimmy.
We had a big argument.
Okay. What happened in the bar?
Yeah, what happened? You were in a bar and
oh Jesus.
We had just come back from our 06 deployment when we lost our guys. We were having a wake for the guy who got the Medal of Honor, Mikey Monsoor, and he happened to be there. He was coming in for a graduating buds class that he was going to speak to, and he was upset with the war. He doesn't agree with it, which is fine. You don't have to agree with the war. I just get sent there. I don't have to agree with politics. I signed up to serve the country. The country tells me what to do.
Mm-hmm.
He was making it known that he did not agree with it, and I approached him and said, "Hey,
it's not the place.
I appreciate it, but we are having a wake. It was the SEAL bar there in town. I said, we're having the wake here. The family's here. I would appreciate it if you just kind of keep it down." He told us that we were killing innocent people over there, men, women, children, that we were murderers, and I said, you know what, we can all have our differences. That's fine, but please just don't upset the family.
Yeah.
And then he said that, we deserve to lose a few guys.
Holy shit.
Jesse said that?
Yes.
The fuck is wrong with him?
So, by the way, all you guys out there that attacked me because I fucking attacked him, good. I'm glad to hear that. He really is a douche. And what happened when he said that to you?
Did you grab his ponytail?
No.
You slugged him? Good.
I punched him.
Good for
Good.
you.
Where'd you punch him?
Bravo.
In the face.
What happened?
That's when you take a headshot.
Jesse Ventura, he's
big man.
He's an older guy, too.
Yeah, he's an older guy.
Of course, all the guys then started making fun of me. So, what geriatric you got?
Yeah, of course.
Wait, when you hit him, did he hit you back or?
No, he went down.
Like
out?
Was he? I don't think he was out. It definitely took him off balance. He went down, and
but the ref wasn't looking. They never are.
Did his walker fall with him?
Yeah, I think he fell out of his wheelchair.
He's a big dude.
Wow,
man.
he went down.
He had a big dude. He's still Jesse the Body. I mean, he's an older guy, but he's still a big, strong guy.
Did he awkwardly get up and have to walk out of the place?
I don't know. I took off running because the cops were already outside, and as soon as I hit him, I knew SEAL party, SEAL bar, cops are watching. They saw the whole thing happen, so I took off running.
Yeah.
So Jesse Ventura said to a SEAL at a bar where there was a wake for a SEAL, "You deserve to lose a few guys."
Yeah.
Yes, he did.
The back of the book segment tonight. You may remember controversy ensued last month when Navy SEAL Chris Kyle wrote in his book, American Sniper, about punching out a former governor who turned out to be Jesse Ventura. Bill O'Reilly recently spoke with Kyle.
So, Chief, I read your book. Very entertaining. I recommend it for my audience. I think they'll like it. First of all, you say you knocked Jesse Ventura to the floor with a punch. Now, you don't mention his name, but everybody knows who that is. Number one, that happened? You knocked him out?
Yeah. Well, I knocked him down.
Knocked him down. Why? Why would you punch Ventura?
It was in 06, was the year that we lost our first 2 SEALs in Iraq. We came home, we lost our last guy just before coming home. We had the wake in a SEAL bar there in Coronado, and he was there. He was there for a speaking engagement at a bud ceremony, graduating class.
Because he was a SEAL, right? Yes, sir. Was a Navy SEAL. So he was bad-mouthing the war, right?
Bad-mouthing the war, bad-mouthing Bush, bad-mouthing America.
And you took exception?
I did find a problem with it. The family was there. I asked him to please tone it down, that we did not want to upset the family members of Mikey Monsoor.
Who was killed?
Yes, sir, and he earned the Medal of Honor. He jumped on a grenade and saved everybody else around.
But I want to be clear, Ventura wasn't attacking him at all, verbally bashing him. He was just bashing the whole thing in general.
Yes, sir, until he said we deserve to lose a few guys.
He said we, the United States.
No, he said y'all deserve to lose a few guys.
Navy SEALs.
I'm assuming he was saying that to me.
Was he drunk?
No, sir. I never saw him with a drink in hand at all.
So once he said you deserve to lose a few guys, you popped him?
Yes, sir.
Did he fight back?
He went down. The cops were there. I took off running.
You ran?
Yes, sir.
Did they arrest you?
No, sir. I have a master chief that always said, punch and run.
Now, if I ask you a tough question, you're going to pop me tonight? I'm not, of course, do that, sir. But no, okay, I'm good. All right, now, the other thing in the book is that you are credited with 150 certified kills, which means you as a sniper took out 150 guys, and somebody else saw it, witnessed it. So you are the most lethal sniper in U.S. history, and you have the medals to prove it. 5 Bronze Stars, 2 Silver Stars, and all of that. What struck me in the book, though, is that you considered the people you were killing, the Iraqis you were killing, quote-unquote, savages.
The people I was killing, not just Iraqis.
Why did you consider the enemy savages?
From their actions, the way they live day to day, as far as the violence they commit on American troops, the beheadings, the rape of innocent villagers and townspeople that they go into just to intimidate them. They live by putting fear into other people's hearts, and civilized people just don't act that way.
You were so effective in Iraq that they put $20,000 on your head. If one of them had killed you, they would have been paid $20,000. Do you believe that they considered you a savage?
I'm sure they did. Honestly, I don't know, and I really don't care.
So you were committed to killing these people because you in your heart believed that they deserved to die.
I wasn't so much committed to killing them as I'm committed to making sure every service member that was over there, whether American or Allied, came home.
But as a sniper, your job is to kill them, not wound them, not arrest them. You have to have a certain mentality to be a sniper. You're killing them.
Oh, I'm killing them to protect my fellow Americans.
And you liked it. I liked that job. In that book, that comes, you know, it was your wife didn't want you to do it. She wanted you to stay home. You went back. How many times did you go back?
4 times.
4 times. You liked killing these guys. Did you ever figure that out?
Well, I mean, it's not a problem taking out someone who wants your people dead. That's not a problem at all.
Do you ever, now, looking back, have any regrets at all about anything that you did?
Yes, I do. And it's the people I couldn't save.
The Americans you couldn't save,
yes.
Were the Allied forces?
Americans, the local Iraqis, anyone who I witnessed violence coming down on them, and I could not save them.
That's your regret?
Yes, sir.
You don't have post-traumatic stress or anything like that, or, you know, that you killed so many human beings? That doesn't come back at you?
None of my problems come from the people I've killed.
It's very fascinating. And that's why I want people to read your book, because I think if they do, if they read your book, Chief, American Sniper, they'll understand what war is really about. Because I think too many of us don't understand what war is really about.
Well, I mean, war is hell. It's definitely, Hollywood fantasizes about it, makes it look good. War sucks.
But they need guys like you to win.
You have to get in the mentality, and you have to not think of them as a human being. You have to portray them as, that's why I put
Savage,
definitely.
Right. All right, Chief, thanks very much. We appreciate you coming on in.
Well, thank you for having me.
Following the allegations, Ventura denied the incident had happened or having ever met Carl.
Network.
Governor Jesse Ventura, we've seen a big national news story claiming that this Navy SEAL who just had a book come out this week at a bar knocked you down and then ran away because you were saying you were glad that Navy SEALs were dead. I mean, it sounds like something out of the Twilight Zone.
Well, Alex, anyone that's ever heard me talk knows that that's not true at all. I have no idea why this person is saying it or for what purpose it's to serve. But, you know, if he stated that he struck me, knocked me down, and then fled, I want people to understand clearly he's confessing then to the crime of assault. And it's assault on a former governor, an elected official, a former elected official twice. I want to clear his name because he's confessing to assaulting me, and it didn't happen. I can unequivocally tell you that I've never been punched in Coronado, California since I've been out of the Navy. I got out of the Navy in active duty in 1973. And I've never been struck by anyone. I've been out there multiple times for reunions that are the third weekend in August every year. And this may have been the graduation, what he's talking about in 06 of class 258, because it's traditional that when 100 years, I was class 58. When 158 graduated back, I believe in the 80s, I went to that graduation because that's a tradition. And then when 258 graduated in 2006, I believe it was, I went to that. But and McPee's Bar is owned by Doc McPartland, who was my SEAL cadre instructor. When I just came out of training, he instructed me in SEAL SBI, SEAL Basic Indoctrination. And he owns that establishment. And I would never, ever misbehave in the Doc's establishment. I have too much respect for him. And if people truly want to clear this up, call him. Call McPee's, because if a former governor within the SEAL community had been knocked down and hit and assaulted, it would have traveled through the SEAL community like wildfire. And for this to now say it happened 5.5 or 6 years after it happened, that's absurd. But I want to state that even though this person is confessing to committing a crime against me of assault, I want to state unequivocally he is not guilty of that crime, because he never hit me. I don't even know who he is. If I've met him or not, I don't know it. His name, I don't even know it right now as I talk to you. I just know that he made accusations that he hit me back in 06, I guess, and that he fled the bar. If that was true, Alex, maybe I should go up, since he's confessing to a crime, maybe I should go up and file the charges. And if he did do this and said police were coming or whatever it was he stated, wouldn't there be a police report? I can assure you there isn't one, and I can assure you this event did not happen. Nobody has ever hit me when I've been up there, since I've been off active duty. Let me categorize that. I got off active duty in 73. Nobody there have I ever been in any trouble or did anything but reunions and graduations or whatever it might have been, or retirement. And the thing is, you're never at McPee's alone. You're there with your teammates and your classmates, and you're all celebrating. When you go to McPee's, there'll be at least 5 or 6 guys with you. Well, I would sure like to hear of a witness that saw of this event, because it never happened. It's plain and that simple. And what does concern me is that this is 2 times now within about a 2-week period where the mainstream media has ran with something that was completely untrue. As you know, they stated that I was tailgating a car a couple weeks ago out in the San Fernando Valley on the way to the airport, and that was solely not true, because I haven't been to California for 6 months, and I haven't flown in an airplane for 15 months, and you can attest to that, because you were with me the last time I flew in a commercial airliner, and that was well over a year ago. So it's 2 times now that bogus, serious, false stories have been perpetuated out there by the mainstream media against me. And I guess, Alex, I can only say maybe because I'm rattling my sword about the elections, maybe because I support Ron Paul, who's not popular, or they say he's fringe because he stands for peace. Maybe because I support peace and not war in this country now, that makes you a target for the people that do support war. I don't know. I'm only speculating there, but I'll let you have it, Alex, and you can speak. But I just want to tell you unequivocally, this event did not happen. And I can't speak to anything else that this person would say, because I don't know him. To my knowledge, I've never ever even met him. Maybe I have, I don't know. But you know, you meet a lot of the younger guys, but you don't recall who they are. But never have I ever been hit or treated disrespectfully in the Navy UDT SEAL community at McPee's bar or any official UDT SEAL function in any way. In fact, I'm treated with honor and dignity at all times. So I don't know where this story or why this young gentleman wants to plead that he committed a crime against me, but I can unequivocally plead for his innocence because the event never happened.
Governor...
So yeah.
Governor Jesse Ventura joins us from Mexico down on the Baja via audio Skype, so there's a bit of a delay when I talked to him. Tyrell was just able to get a hold of him yesterday. This, strangely enough, happened right as Jesse drove his RV into Mexico and was out of phone reach for 3 days, driving to the Baja. He drove, because he refuses to fly, all the way from Minnesota to Baja, and he just learned from his son that on Bill O'Reilly's Fox, on at least 10 other Fox shows, syndicated radio, newspapers, they are all reporting as if it's absolute fact. Here's a Fox News headline: Navy SEAL sniper punched out Jesse Ventura. But, sir, his name is Chris Kyle. He has a book coming out. He's starting a big mercenary firm to train domestic law enforcement to, quote, deal with the domestic insurgents. So it gets into the whole NDAA. They're kind of setting him up as this big hero and you the villain, but this is not the main issue. So you're categorically denying, saying call the owner of the bar, who was, you know, one of your main trainees when you were in SEALs decades ago. Obviously, this would have been out in the news beforehand, but that's not the big issue. And I'm sad to have to raise this to you, but I know in your Facebook comment, also posted at Infowars.com, you've responded. He has gone on all these shows and said it's terrible. There's the family with the wake. He's talking bad about this Congressional Medal of Honor winner, and I say, please stop. And Jesse says, they deserve to die. You deserve to die. I mean, clearly the most horrible thing you could say, designed to destroy your character. If this isn't defamation, I don't know what is. It's one thing to say, I'm a tough guy, I, knocked Jesse Ventura down and then ran away, which makes no sense. And then to defame the SEALs and say they teach us to punch you once and run away. I've been contacted by SEALs and others saying that's pure bull. But the fact, Governor, that he would say that you were celebrating in front of a family the death of their son, I mean, this is incredible, Governor. What do you say to that?
Well, I say that, I have never supported the Iraq War. And let me say this clearly. Wars are not caused by the soldiers, the sailors, and the airmen. Wars are caused by politicians. Politicians take us to war. And I have been so critical of the politicians that took us to the Iraq War. And I have every right to do so. But I can tell you, Alex Jones, I have all the sympathy in the world for the soldiers, having been one. And anyone that questions my patriotism, that I would behave this manner, that's a direct insult to me, my family. It's a direct insult to my mother and father. My father had 6 bronze battle stars in World War II. My mother was a World War II veteran, a nurse in North Africa. My brother is a Vietnam veteran, served in Da Nang, and myself, a veteran. My entire family are veterans. We were all enlisted men. We were at the bottom rung of who joins and goes and has to fight and go to war. So for someone to state that I would take joy and pleasure, and especially one of my SEAL teammates would die, that I would enjoy that, is despicable. It's wrong. And this never happened. And I can't know what the motives are for this. I can only assume that obviously the war machine or the people that support war do not like to hear people talk who don't support war. But I have never, ever wished death upon any military serviceman. Alex, that's the most ridiculous thing. We've known each other. Go back and look at everything I've ever said in public that is recorded.
You always say the same thing. You always say, I've been in airports where you shake the troops' hands, thank them for their service, get a tear in your eye and say, be safe. You've always said you're against the wars, feeding these good men and women in there. When I called you when the Navy SEALs helicopter, the ones that knew about the bin Laden raid, and it blew up, you got upset on the phone. And this is clearly designed. He says it with real pleasure in his eyes, to make the military and the Navy SEAL community turn against you. It's the worst thing, the worst story that you could ever make up. And it is vicious. And I have to think it's more than to just sell this book. When you find out he's going after government contracts internationally with the military and domestic police agencies with his craft group, it is super creepy. Governor, to Fox News, who's the main, they're acting like this is the #1 story in the country. They are, for 4 days, every other show, this guy's on there. They're reporting it as it's a fact. They're clearly going after you. Obviously, do you want to call for a retraction? Because they don't put a Navy SEAL claims he punched out Ventura. They state it like they got video of it. They never try to call the bar owner. They never call for witnesses. They just put him on TV like it's true, and this is unbelievable.
Well, certainly I would like a retraction, and I'm going to defend myself, Alex. I'm not going to say over the show what I'm doing right now, but I'm not taking this lying down. This is extremely serious. It's heartbreaking. Truly to me, that someone would accuse me. Because like I said, it's like accusing my family. My mother and father taught me, and they taught me well. And everyone in my family's a veteran. And anyone who knows me, the guys that served with me, why don't they talk to some of them and ask them how I was? Talk to my Master Chief, Terry Mother Moy. And ask him, would I say anything like this? This is absurd, and it can be easily counteracted if I was up in the States. But again, like you said, Alex, how timely. Obviously, I must be under some type of surveillance for people to know exactly when I would cross the border and have no means to communicate or to fight for myself, and it would give them the time to sink this story in and across the airwaves, and then of course fiction becomes fact, I guess, many times. The damage is done. I can't do anything about that, but you can bet that I will seek a full retraction of this, and I'll tell you, if anyone wants on your show, I demand a retraction, because what this person is saying is unequivocally untrue. If I would have said those things, he would have hit me. But he never hit me, so clearly, Alex, I did not say those things.
If this Kyle individual, this Chris Kyle, was standing in front of you, who wants to make his big name off to trying to destroy your honor, if he was standing in front of you right now, what would you say to him? Because undoubtedly he's going to watch this.
I would simply ask him why he would lie about committing a crime against me. Why would he go on national TV and lie about assaulting me, which is a crime, and admit that he did it? What'd you say? And admit that he did it if he said he did. And I know I'd look at him and smile and go, "You've never hit me in your life."
Well, it's incredibly...
You've never hit.
I mean, it's incredibly cowardly. I've done a lot of interviews with you, Governor, and been on your TV show for 3 seasons now. And I've met your wife, great lady. I know she's been in the background before during interviews. I've never heard her jumping in. Sounds like Terry's pretty upset. What's your wife think of this?
No, of course she is. We've been married 36 years. She knows me better than any other person on the planet does. And like any couple, when one couple is hurt, the other feels the pain also. Anyone that's ever been in love and had a wife knows that. And so, sure, she's feeling my pain. She's feeling it with me, as she always has. But there's not a more loyal person in the world than her. And I know I always have her support 100%. And she has been out there with me. My wife has been to McPee's. She knows that nothing like that would ever happen, or she would know about it. She's friends with many of my SEAL team teammates. I challenge this, Alex. I challenge the SEAL community, for anyone else who knows of this event, to come forward, because no one will. And if they do, they're being untruthful, because it did not happen, unequivocally. This guy never hit me. I don't even know him. If he walked into the room right now, Alex, I wouldn't know who he was.
Well, when the truth comes out, he's going to be known as basically a Benedict Arnold. Next to the word defamation in the dictionary is going to be a picture of this guy, because I cannot imagine anything more dishonorable than to be part of a community, an elite community of people that serve their country, and then to concoct such a horrible lie, and then to try to bring so much pain to the Navy SEALs and their families that have lost or been wounded, and to try to blame it all on you. It is beyond sickening and disgusting and cowardly. And that's why when I heard this and saw this and registered the body language, I went and did research on this guy, and a chill went up my spine. The Richard Pearl, Dick Cheney connections. He's an Eric Prince Blackwater wannabe setting this thing up in Dallas. I thought, oh my God, they put him up to this, and I got nauseous by Friday when I knew this was going to be pure bull, Jesse, and I just cannot believe it. Look, they're scared of you. You ought to be proud they're doing this. They want to destroy you politically, even though you weren't intending to run. And I wrote an article yesterday about this with Paul Watson. I said this may have the opposite effect. If they think this is going to run you off and make you go into the sunset, this may pull you out of the sunset, Jesse, because I know you've been veering towards going off into the sunset.
Well, only to surf, Alex, but again, on a serious note, for him to make allegations that I would take any joy in a United States military person dying in a war, I don't. And when you ask me what I would say to him if I saw him face to face, I would say, how dare you? I can be against a war, but I have never, ever been against the poor soldiers, sailors, and airmen that have to fight it. regardless of which war that is. And I've lived through a lot of them, Alex, because it's 30 years now of my life that my country has been at war. And I'm sick of war, and I'll say it to anybody. I despise war. War is the failure of politicians. Their ultimate failure is the ultimately why you have war. But I would never, ever say anything to hurt any soldier, sailor, or airman because they did their job. Is that strong enough, Alex?
It's strong, Governor. I just wonder what they're thinking, because Fox News and others have really opened themselves up, repeatedly stating this like it's a fact. They never say claim. They say, but again, knocking you out, that's to make you, defame you as a tough guy, as you're known to be. And then, but that's nothing in my view, as you've agreed. I mean, they've got to know that you're obviously going to come after them, and it's mind-blowing that before Fox went with this, before others did, that they didn't call McPease and find out that this was total bull.
Well, it is total bull because, Doc McPartland, like I said, I've known him. He was one of my instructors after I completed BUDS, and I went to what they call SBI, SEAL Basic Indoctrination. And I see the doc all the time when I'm down there. I always ask him how business is going. And if this event would have happened in his bar 5.5 years ago, or it's a bar eating establishment, both. If this would have happened, this would have been on the news 5.5 years ago. How does it suddenly rear its head 5.5 years later? Because it's not true. It did not happen. Nobody's ever hit me there. Nothing like that has happened. And, I'll be interested to see what witnesses can possibly come forward to this event, because you can't have a witness to an event that didn't happen.
That's right, and Fox and all the other channels always just take clips of interviews from my show without asking, but I'm here giving them permission if they want to try to begin to set things right. Not that that's possible, but, they're basically on notice. You better retract, and knowing them, they don't care. Look at News Corps with what they've been caught doing in England, spying, bribing, wiretapping people. They had the New York Post, do similar things before that they did have to retract on 9/11 truth groups. And they just don't care. They've got a mission because they know they're getting ready to start a new war, and they want to try to discredit you ahead of that. They hate the fact that you are a UDT Navy SEAL. They hate the fact that you're a popular movie star, wrestler, governor, mayor, best-selling author.
Alex, let me interject for a moment on McPease. McPease would never let me back in if I would have said those things. I can tell you that. Doc McPartland would never even let me set my foot in there if I would have stated what this guy said I said.
Well, they're trying to turn the whole SEAL community against you. I think this is just look, you called into my show first, and then you were on the local TV and newspapers the next day with retractions when they said you were tailgating like a maniac in California getting to the airport, and I just talked to you the day before to get you on the radio show the next week when you were in Minnesota. I called your Minnesota. You haven't flown in 16 months because of the TSA groping you. It's all over the news. You're suing them. All of this is going on, and they have TMZ hooked up with Fox come out and say that you're this maniac, and then they remove the article but don't retract when your lawyer calls them, and now they do this again with this guy rolling out I think this guy's a useful idiot that the insiders contacted and talked into doing this. That's clearly what happened here, and he doesn't seem like he's that smart, and I think he's going to get in a lot of trouble.
Well, I don't know. Like I said, I'm going to do what I need to do to clear this matter up. I won't rest on just simply talking to you. I will, pursue other avenues, but it's difficult for me because of the timing. I'm way down here in Mexico right now, and, I don't have access to get on television and deny these charges unless I drive all the way back up, and, that's a 2-day drive that's very brutal. So the timing of this is also very remarkable, Alex, and it's amazing that, but I thank you, because in fact, I have to ask you, Alex, help. You're my man right now. You're my media guy. You're the only guy I have access to talk to. So it's going to fall on your shoulders, my friend, to clear my name here immediately.
Well, we all know what happened. You bet. I'm the one, it was my crew showed it to me a few hours after it happened. That was on Wednesday, and I said, this is going to, no, that was Thursday. I said, this is going to get really, really big. And by Friday, it was all over the TV stations. And I just kept, telling Ty, it was trying you every 5 minutes, try to get your dad to, obviously this isn't true, but we got to get a response. And now I'm sure they think it's real funny what they've done. And I know, you've been working really hard. You deserve a vacation, but I'm afraid you're going to probably have to get back in the RV and drive up to California. But here's the problem. In the last 5 years, when you went on CNN, Fox, you cleaned their clocks. So now they don't have you on as often. And I think they're probably going to try to close the doors on you so they can just get away with all this. But they're not going to be able to ignore, obviously, what comes out of it later. But that's just what Rupert Murdoch does. But I think you're right. Your initial point that this is News Corps doing this. This is their specialty. And so you ought to, it's the mark of the fact that you're a patriot and that you'll talk about 9/11 being having evidence of inside job. You'll talk about Kennedy being assassinated by the government or elements of it. You'll talk about the wars being frauds. You'll talk about all this. So they need to try to destroy you ahead of this big police state. You've been criticizing their NDAA, their TSA, the checkpoints on the highways. Look, they're putting out fake ads saying that Ron Paul put them out being racist towards Asians, and then it turned out it was tracked back to Huntsman's people. But the media now won't retract it. Listen, they've got people dressed up as racist hayseeds claiming that they support Rand Paul and Ron Paul and getting caught. Governor, I think you're going to see more dirty tricks. Because you're over the target.
Well, maybe so, Alex. There's nothing I can do about that. I'm going to be who I am. I'm going to continue to speak out on everything because I believe in our Constitution. I believe in our Bill of Rights. And I believe that they're right in the crosshairs right now if the country doesn't rise up and protect citizens and our Constitution and Bill of Rights, that we're going to lose our country, because I truly believe that, because everything that I'm learning and the more I get into it and see what's going on, the more we have to be that much more vigilant. And as I said, I got to count on you now, Alex, because right now my hands are tied down here. I don't have the ability to although if it could be set up that I could do television somewhere, I would be happy to go, on satellite and go on any one of these shows. So if you're in contact with Fox, who appears to be out to destroy me, tell them I'll be available anytime I possibly can, but because of the remoteness of where I live, it's difficult.
Yeah.
I agree totally that it would be in his best interest to tell the truth. Absolutely, that this thing never happened and that it's all fabricated, because the longer it goes on, the worse and worse it's going to be.
Wow. Well, Governor, thank you so much. You've got our hotline numbers here throughout the week. Anytime you've got points you want to make, and I know you're down there to exercise and take a few months off before you come back. And I know you're down there writing another book that's coming out later this year. But what a way to start 2012. Something similar happened to me, and it's staged when suddenly it's all over the Dallas Morning News, Denver Post, national TV within minutes. Extras calling you. But I was out there protesting Obama in 2008 at the DNC because I knew he was going to be the same as Bush. And Michelle Malkin shows up, and these people start screaming, "Kill Michelle Malkin," and getting behind me and leaning down behind me. And they had cameras. And I was like, "What are you doing?" And they had masks and hats on. And then I saw them leave with Malkin, and I was like, "What was that?" And then the headlines were out within hours that I was saying, "Kill Michelle Malkin," leading a mob. And I had people saying, "Your career is over. You're saying kill women." Thank God we were able to upload video. I threatened to sue a bunch of people, and all retracted but the Dallas Morning News, but that was enough to discredit them. And they tried to say I was saying kill a woman, Gov. So I've had them do similar stuff.
Let me just say this, Alex. I won't threaten.
Well, it's just amazing.
If you get what I just said, if you got what I just said to you, I won't threaten it.
You sound pretty mad at Chris Kyle.
Well, I didn't even know his name until you told it to me today. That shows you how distant this whole thing is. I don't even know who he is. I have no idea if I've ever met him, because, you know, when I go out there, you meet many other SEALs that weren't of your era, and, you know, hi, how you doing? You shake hands or whatever it might be, you know, or they come up to you, because I know for many times I was there always with Rudy Bosch, you know, Chief Bosch from Survivor. And we would be so inundated with picture taking that we would sit and laugh, and Rudy and I would say, you know, we need to get those cardboard cutouts so everyone can stand next to us and get their picture taken, and that way we can go over and enjoy and have fun. Because it would take, you know, at that point Rudy was red hot because he was the original Survivor show and all that, and so that would go on. So there has never been a time at any SEAL event that I've gone to where I felt threatened, where I've been assaulted, where anything bad has ever happened to me. And, you know, being flattened or knocked down into in a bar 5 years ago, you would think I could remember that, Alex. You'd think that would make an impression on me, but it hasn't.
But we know, because I've seen you with troops and had you on my show 50 times and seen in other shows, you always say, my heart goes out to those dying because of these lying politicians. It's so horrible. I mean, you would never say something like that. I've seen you talk about your mom and dad and get a tear in your eye. I mean, that is such a load of venomous garbage. And I want to close with a quote here of an advisor to Fox News and one of their main political correspondents in an interview with the New York Times Magazine, October 17, 2004, when Karl Rove said, in what we call the reality-based community, which he defined as people who believe the solutions emerge from your judicious study of discernible reality, that, quote, that's not the way the world really works anymore, he continued. We're an empire now, and when we act, we create our own reality. And while you're studying that reality judiciously, as you will, we'll act again, creating other new realities, which you can study too, and that's how things will sort out. We're history's actors, and you, all of you, will be left just to study what we do. My dad last night was over for dinner, and he said this reeks of Karl Rove, who lives here in Austin, by the way, and regardless, they think they can just tell the public something, and that makes it reality, like Obama saying dropping bombs all over Libya is not a military action, but is a kinetic action. They think just because they roll some punk out to say something that makes it true, Governor.
Well, absolutely, and it doesn't make it true. And when I come back and get back up there, in fact, before I get there, you know, the ball will be rolling. You know, I'm doing what I can do to clear my name, and I'll do whatever it takes to do that, because, you know, I'm the kind of guy, Alex, I'll be happy to admit when I do something, but I don't want to be credited with things that I don't do. And I would think this guy wouldn't want to be credited also with assaulting me. You know, he never did it. It never happened, and why? Somebody needs to ask him why he's telling this story, because it's not true.
Well, I tell you, Gov, this is going to boomerang on them, because they crafted the most vicious lie they could and sold it as if it was absolute truth from the beginning, because they are concerned about you. They are scared of you with a third-party run, or if somebody picked you for a VP. They know you've been talking behind the scenes some to the libertarians. And they're concerned, so they put something out saying you were glad that Navy SEALs were dead in front of their family, the most sickening thing you could say to military people. When they made their move on you, they did it when you were out of the country. They forged the most wicked lie they could, and you know, you say you will defend yourself. You're not stupid. You've got to. You're not going to probably, the way they're hyping it, do very well from this unless you absolutely, you know, go after these people, and you know that. And so God knows what's coming next if they're going to move with something this dangerous.
Yeah, I don't know, Alex, but I'll be on my toes. I have to admit, though, this one caught me off guard. I never expected to be hit with what they hit me with.
Oh, they're going to make up a lie. If they're going to make, well, listen, Ty was telling me that you were talking about, it's kind of arcane, but, you know, being an expert on the JFK assassination and covering it in your hit TV show for True TV, and people can read your statements, by the way, at The Real Jesse Ventura on Facebook. We're linked to the statement at Infowars.com. The article is exclusive. Jesse Ventura blast Navy SEAL punch hoax as a total lie. But you talked about, but in your own words, and I know you got to go, that this is like them mailing a rifle, the Carcano, from Chicago to Dallas when you could buy a gun anywhere with no registration in 1963. You said, what are they going to start mailing guns from Chicago to you down in Baja, Mexico?
I don't know, but always remember, Alex, they said that Oswald was in Mexico while they also said he was at a shooting range. And so I'm getting accused of doing all these things. Do you think there's a double of me? There's that famous book, Lee and Harvey. I believe Armstrong is the author. Do you think that they have a double of me out there that's causing all this trouble?
Well, you know what? That is the exact kind of stuff they do. You know what they did to Garrison? He'd be in an airport and walk in the bathroom, and men would start trying to grab on him, and there'd be police waiting right there. I mean, look, they're doing a whole bunch of this stuff to Ron Paul, too, right now. They put out a fake video saying it was his, making fun of Asians. Fox, CNN all took it, and it turns out now it goes back to one of the people he's running against, and they're even bragging about it. That's how dumb they think the public is. So pray for Jesse Ventura, pray for Ron Paul, pray for me, because, folks, we're not perfect, but we're not under the globalist insiders' control, and that's why we're wild cards, we're loose cannons. The system is scared of us. Governor, thank you so much.
Okay, one last thing, Alex, one last thing I want to state on your show first. My wife and I are not suicidal. We're in great health. We're good drivers, and we don't have Twitter. So anybody that says that I've Twittered anything, you know as well as I do, I don't own a cell phone. And you got to own a cell phone to Twitter. So anything done on Twitter is also false. But again, Alex, we're not suicidal. We're in good health, and we're very good drivers.
Well, you and your wife are very smart, so I don't have to tell you something you don't know. But for some of the new audience who may not understand, I told Ty the same thing off air. I said, sometimes they do a really bad demonization, and then they kill you so that you can't defend yourself. So I'm glad you got this out here. And please, viewers and listeners, make sure you get this out to everybody out there, because if they can destroy Jesse, folks, we got to stand together or hang separate, as Ben Franklin said. That's why we got to stand with Governor Ventura against this outrageous lie, because they'll get away with it with Ron Paul or anybody else that comes out in the future. We've got to stand with Governor Ventura right now. I mean, look at how they shut down that episode of the police state FEMA camps. That's most of the interview. I ran out of time. I'll have a little bit more tomorrow, 11 a.m. Central. Great job of the crew. And again, Jesse came on and said, yes, we must stand together. They can destroy me. They can destroy anybody. God bless you all. Infowars.com. We'll post the full interview.
Ventura filed a lawsuit in January of 2012 against Carl for charges of defamation, appropriation, and unjust enrichment. After Carl was killed the following year, the lawsuit was transferred to Carl's estate.
When all that shit went down with Chris Kyle and when he said that he punched you in a bar and you sued the family,
no, I didn't.
Well,
I didn't sue the family.
You sued him, rather. Excuse me.
I sued him, and he died, and then the suit automatically goes to his estate. That's the way the legal works. She was never in any jeopardy, because in any writer's contract, you have insurance from the publisher. So it's me. They portrayed it, and I became the villain, going after the widow and the kids.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the biggest lie. It was a big insurance company that's covering the whole thing. They're not out a penny, and they won't be out a penny.
But you had to explain that, I'm sure, over and over again.
No, I couldn't explain
interviews.
it. The trial got overturned because the insurance came out. So it's okay to lie in court, but if the truth comes out, you can get a new trial.
The insurance came out. What does that mean?
In court. You're not allowed to say that insurance is paying for everything, even though it's the truth. You're not allowed to say that in court.
So what happens when you say it in court?
Well, it came out, and the judge allowed it to a limited degree, and then the appeals court ruled that the judge shouldn't have did that.
Because having the judge say that, it sways people to be
they
more
think
inclined to rule against the insurance company.
Yeah.
Because the insurance company is a big conglomerate.
Even though the other side is doing what's called poor mouthing. They're getting up and saying it's taxing them financially and lying. The truth is, insurance is paying for all of it. Don't get up and lie about it.
So the other side was saying this is going to devastate our family, but in reality they weren't.
Trying to influence and in this case, let me state this. How overwhelming must the evidence have been for the jury to go against the grieving widow of the dead war veteran?
Yeah, it must be pretty overwhelming.
The evidence was overwhelming. The jury they came for me. They said he was lied, this didn't happen, and we're awarding.
Why do you think he did that? Did you know him?
No.
You didn't know him?
No.
I mean,
I didn't know even who he
obviously
was till the thing happened. We were there on the same nights. We were at McPee's because I was there for a graduation of class 258. I'm class 58. It's traditionally every 100 classes, if you can, you come back to the graduation. So class 258 was graduating the next day on Friday. I came out along with my teammates from class 58 to attend that graduation the next day. So why would I say bad things about the SEALs if I'm there? That's what he said he punched me for.
Well, because for people who don't know what we're talking about, because probably a lot of people listening to this have no idea what we're talking about. So let me just fill them in real quick.
All right.
The book American Sniper, the movie with Bradley Cooper, was just a giant hit movie, very patriotic movie about a guy who was one of the most successful snipers in U.S. history, right? Very successful warrior, Navy SEAL, war hero. Everybody loved him. Then he goes on the Opie and Anthony show, and he says that he punched you out in a
there's
bar.
a chapter in his book.
Yes.
Where he writes that he called me scruff face.
Yeah.
And he said that I said SEALs deserve to die. That, in other words, he accused me of treason.
Yes.
And I was out there for a SEAL graduation. If I felt that way about my old unit, why would I be attending?
So he wrote in the book, he gave you a nickname in the book.
Scruff face.
Well, whoever, I mean, he might not have even, when he wrote it in the book, he might not have even thought that he was going to give that to you. I mean, who knows what was going on. My thought was, at the time, I was trying to wrap my head around why anybody would do this. And I was thinking, well, maybe he's just trying to generate as much controversy as possible, to generate as much income as possible from his book, and it just got out of hand. I was trying to put it together because there was a couple other fabrications, right? There was a shooting at a gas station that never took place.
Yep, and he said that during Katrina he was on the dome and shot people who were looting.
Yeah, that was disturbing because that's murder.
Yeah, and he also lied about his medals. The Navy had to come out and correct. He said he had 2 silver stars and 5 bronze stars. He had 1 silver star and 3 bronze stars. So he lied about 3 medals.
Well, it's 1 and 3 is impressive enough. I mean,
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then they try to give him an excuse saying, well, he was confused. No, you're not. When you get a medal like that, it's like graduating from college. They give you a certificate that puts on your wall if you win the bronze star or the silver star.
But as a SEAL yourself, and
he threw me under the bus.
What does that feel like to you? Because
treason.
But this is, I mean, obviously, this is something that's very near and dear to your heart.
Hugely. He has made it to where I can't go to a reunion anymore. There were 170 SEALs that wanted me kicked out of the UDT SEAL Association over his lie. And the lies of his buddies who came up and tried to testify for him.
So what did
it got embarrassing
his
in the
buddies
trial.
Said that it actually happened?
No, they couldn't say it, but they tried to say everything else to make it seem like it did.
Well, how the hell did they do that?
Well, because they dance around the questions and the lawyering, and, well, you have to piece together. There wasn't one witness that saw me get hit, and there wasn't one witness that heard me say anything he attributed to me.
And weren't you visible the next day?
Yeah, we have pictures,
and photographs, no punch.
We have photographs that night, them posing for pictures with me. If I had said all this stuff, why would they have take pictures with me?
What does that feel like when someone just fucking lies?
Horrible. And what makes
lies about a terrible thing.
And what's worse about it is the media jumps on it and convicts me of it because why? They broke the story when I went off the grid in Mexico where I couldn't even come back.
So they broke the story. Do you think they knew that
I'm
you were
starting
off the
to
grid?
believe it.
But didn't it happen on the Opie and Anthony show?
Yeah.
But I don't think that was planned because I know those guys.
But was the whole? Well, they also did it. He did it that day on O'Reilly later that afternoon.
So once he named you, he just started naming you everywhere.
Oh yeah. Then it went viral. It went viral, and everyone convicted me because they said, well, this Iraq war veteran wouldn't lie. Really?
I watched.
Well, let me tell you how bad it's destroyed my life. I can't get hired for a job. During my trial, after it was over, guess what happened? 34 major media conglomerates entered the trial with that amicy, they call it, or whatever, of influencing the Court of Appeals to overturn my verdict, and they did it. 34 media conglomerates, the New York Times, the Washington Post, all of these media conglomerates appealed to the Court of Appeals to overturn my verdict.
But why?
Because I won on something called unjust enrichment. They want the ability to be able to defame you and profit from it. In other words, I'll put it, what these judges accommodated them with, there's going to be another trial. They've ordered a new trial.
Oh, God.
So I got to go through it again. But I'm glad, because when it comes out 2 juries and 2 judges find Kyle guilty, who's not going to believe it then? But the point is, they've ordered a new trial. They threw out the whole verdict of the jury, the federal judge who wrote substantial evidence supporting the jury's verdict. They did all that, and they violated their own rules. A 76-year rule. Here's what it states. Because it happened during summation, where the judge allowed it in, my attorney, it ended up 4 questions in an 11-day trial and a half a page of a 20-page summary, and it was overturned on that. And they overturned it because they felt it was undue influence on the jury, that they found out that insurance was paying for everything.
That's
so it was
it? Just that one factor?
Well, and here's the deal. If the rules state that if in final argument they say something, you must object. You must object so the trial lawyer has a chance to rule during final argument, and the jury has a chance to hear the ruling. They never objected.
So they must object to undue influence because of the fact that it was...
They never objected. The jury was dismissed at 11:58. At 12:02, they then objected. The judge overruled them, and we were done with it. Well, these 2 judges, Riley and Shepard, have now overturned the case on something that was never objected to in trial. They objected to it, so they overturned the jury and the federal judge. Then they also overturned my unjust enrichment claim because the media didn't want it. What they've allowed now is the media can defame you and profit from it, and you can't get any of their profits, no matter how they harm you. Well, that's the equivalent of if you went out and robbed the bank and they caught you and they sentenced you to 2 years in prison for the bank robbery, but when you get out, you get to keep all the money you took.
So that's in this particular case.
Yes,
you're talking about this particular
case. Which will now be the standard. Because they've ruled that way. They now make it to where you can profit from wrongdoing.
Because of this case.
Yep.
This is such a touchy case because it's so indicative of the complications of people. Because people are not simple.
It's really not touchy. He lied.
Yeah, he did lie, but
he harmed me with his lie.
But that's not what I'm saying. What's complicated is he's also the subject of this gigantic movie and this symbol of patriotism, where so many people will say, Chris Kyle, rest in peace. So many people would have, I saw a cloud that was, someone took a photo in the cloud. That's not a cloud. That's Chris Kyle. It looked like a sniper in the cloud. It's Chris Kyle guarding the skies. Like, it became a meme. I mean, he became this thing where it wasn't. He was a representative of the brave military, like the portrayal. But hold on a second. The portrayal that Bradley Cooper played in that movie. That movie was so simplistic and so it was like right out of a Joseph Campbell movie.
Let
like
me
the
add
perfect
this.
hero's journey.
Had I not gone to court, that would have been in the movie.
Really?
I had to stop it.
They were going to have him punch you in the movie.
Certainly it's in the book.
Holy shit.
And I had to stop it.
Holy shit.
No, when we were in trial, you know what they tried to do to diminish my role? Because when they knew they were going to lose, Their lawyer got me on the stand and he said, Mr. Ventura, he said, would it surprise you to know that the first draft of the movie doesn't have you in it? Trying to prove how insignificant my
Why would you
part
say
of the book.
first draft of the movie? That doesn't mean shit.
Well, the first draft of the script.
But so what if the second draft
Hold
has you in it?
Though. I said, here's my response. I said, no, that wouldn't surprise me at all, because I said, we've sent 2 letters to Warner Brothers warning them that if I'm indeed in this movie, they will be next to be sued. So we put Warner Brothers on notice that if this chapter's included in your movie, you will get sued next. And you know people out here, they don't want to step into a lawsuit. That's the only thing that kept me from being punched out in that movie and portrayed me as a villain in that frickin' movie. And I've never seen the movie.
Not just a villain, way more than a villain.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that is insane. It is insane because what's crazy to me and what's complicated about this is that there are thousands and thousands of brave men and women who have risked their lives, sacrificed their lives, and this guy becomes this figurehead, he rises above,
including me,
including you. Yes, very important. But he rises above all this and becomes this
icon figure.
Yes, this iconic figure that you can't tarnish. And then the truth is irrelevant, and they're willing to sacrifice people like you and the truth just for this overall image of patriotism.
Yep.
It's crazy. What a crazy place that must have been for you.
Still is. In fact, do you know that this person that I told you about with the seizures, the seizure disorder started right after this?
Oh, I'm sure.
And
the
seizures,
stress must have been overwhelming.
Doctors have said seizures can be caused by stress. So I hold Chris Kyle directly responsible for the seizure disorder also that I had to face, that marijuana cured.
Did you ever communicate with him face to face?
Only once at the first, when we first in June, I didn't even know who he was. And then in June of 2012, after the book came out in January, we had a settlement conference where he kept saying that if he met me in person, we could work it out. So at this conference, we agreed I would meet him in a room, the judge in the corner, and just he and I, like you and I are here. We sat down in the room, and I looked him right in the face, and I said, why did you do this? You never punched me. He looked me back and said, yes, I did. I turned to the judge. I said, there's no need to go any farther. I said, if he's not going to admit it didn't happen face-to-face, one-on-one, and I challenge his courage. Because, yeah, he had the courage to go to Iraq. He had the courage to shoot all these people, but he didn't have the courage to tell the truth, did he?
What a bizarre moment that must have been, sitting across from that guy.
Yeah, and he looked at me and said, yes, I did.
What was the look in his face?
I believe, and I'm not a doctor, but I've done some studying, I think he was a sociopath. Sociopaths can lie and hold a straight face, and they lie to the point where they believe their own lie.
How bizarre is it that this iconic figure...
Well, and then look how he died.
Yeah.
Well, he had no training in post-traumatic stress. He's not medical, and yet he's taking this Marine to a gun range who's suffering from post-traumatic stress. Wouldn't common sense tell you not to put a weapon in the hands of someone suffering from post-traumatic stress?
Well, I think every guy suffering from post-traumatic stress is different, right?
Well, what do they tell him, to man up? Why would you put a weapon in somebody's hands who's suffering from post-traumatic stress when you have no medical training? How is Kyle qualified to treat this guy?
Well, I would assume it would be based on his own post-traumatic stress.
But he didn't have it.
He didn't have it at all. No?
He was never treated for it. He may have had it. Maybe that's why he did what he did. I don't know.
God, what a crazy place to be.
But for me, it's like I've been accused of something I didn't do. I don't even know the guy. Never. I may have met him that night briefly.
Well,
maybe.
Let me tell you something. I obviously didn't get 1/1,000,000% of the amount of hate that you did. But just reading...
I got read off September 11th of this year. I was in New York doing this book tour, and I got read off in a hotel lobby over this.
What does that mean, read off?
A guy yelled and screamed at me in front of the entire hotel lobby.
Jesus Christ.
That's what I live with now. And I haven't been damaged. My reputation isn't damaged over something I never did.
What I was going to say is, I obviously haven't experienced 1/1,000,000th of the hate that you have, but we read this article on the air. We were trying to figure out what happened when your case was going on. And so we read this article that was, I don't know, it was in the New York Times. See if you can find the article detailing all the various lies.
Oh, that's the New Yorker magazine.
The New Yorker. Yeah.
New Yorker they did an investigation
stunning.
of him.
But it's stunning. And just reading that, the fucking amount of hate tweets and Facebook tweets and you fucking coward and you this and you that. I'm like, hey, I didn't write it. Okay? I'm just trying to figure out what the fuck is going on. And if someone put something like that in the New Yorker with verified claims, I mean, everything's verified. Like what they were saying that he said and what actually had happened was all verified. It's very, very, very confusing that somehow or another this slipped through the cracks and that this became their iconic figure. Again, not discounting, along with you, the thousands and thousands of patriotic Americans that risked their lives.
And he is too. Nobody's denying he wasn't a great sniper. Nobody's denying he didn't do his job. I've never denied that from him or said that about him. He may be the best. I don't know. I'll still put my money on Carlos Hathcock, though, the Marine, as being the best sniper.
Well, especially now.
But he did his job and he did it well. But why did he have to take an old veteran? That would be like me taking a World War II guy and throwing him under the bus.
Why the fuck would he choose you?
Because I had fame. I think he got jealous that night we were at the bar because everyone crowded around and wanted their picture with me.
Wow.
I don't know. He'll never be around to answer it. I'd love to know why he picked out me. I think because I'm probably the most famous, maybe, or I developed to be the most famous SEAL other than Dick Marcinko, the Rogue Warrior.
Great books.
Yeah.
I've read his books. Are amazing.
He's a friend of mine, Richard Marcinko.
When you sat down and you're talking to this guy, how much time were you actually in the room with him?
Oh, a couple of minutes was all. The minute he looked me in the eye and said, "I sure did hit you," I turned to the judge and said, "We got nothing more to talk about."
You didn't want to.
I even offered him. I said, "If you will walk out to me with the press and admit you fabricated this story, I will forgive you in front of the press, and we will go on with our lives." He would not do it. He did not have the courage to stand up and tell the truth.
It takes a lot of courage to admit you lied about something that massive. I mean, this isn't lying about speeding, right? This is a massive, massive lie.
But what about ruining my life, ruining my reputation, ruining my wife's life? I lost my conspiracy theory show because of it.
Really?
I can't get hired. Right now, I can't get a job. My last job was on the internet at Aura TV because the owner's Carlos Slim from Mexico. From that, you know who I'm hired? You know who I work for now? The Russians. Russian TV RT's the only people that'll hire me because 34 media conglomerates entered this case to overturn me. You think they're going to hire me?
Now explain that. Why do you think they did that? Do you think they did that because if they overturn your case, if they can somehow or another...
Because they don't want to have to fact check.
But is that it, or is that discrediting you? Like, that was a gigantic hit movie. But if they can discredit you, it makes that movie still valuable.
Not only that, it stops me from running for president, don't it, if they can discredit me.
On July 29th of 2014, the jury returned a recommendation of 8-2 that Kyle was liable to Ventura for defamation and unjust enrichment, but not appropriation. The jury concluded the Kyle estate owed Ventura $500,000 for defamation and $1.34 million for unjust enrichment. The district judge who rendered the final judgment said there was substantial evidence that supported the jury verdict. Kyle's widow appealed the verdict on behalf of Kyle's estate. Attorneys for Kyle's estate asked the appeals court to throw out the verdict or at least order a new trial because a lawyer for Ventura told jurors that the $1.8 million judgment would be paid for by Kyle's book publisher's insurance policy, not his estate. In June of 2016, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 8th Circuit threw out the $1.8 million, in part due to the revelation of a non-relevant insurance policy by Ventura's attorneys to the jury. The $1.35 million in unjust enrichment was overturned and dismissed as being inconsistent with Minnesota law. The $500,000 defamation suit was remanded back to trial. In December 2017, the case was settled out of court for an undisclosed amount.
Former Minnesota Governor Jesse Ventura says he can now move on with his life after settling a lawsuit with a former Navy SEAL that he calls the American liar. Ventura was suing the estate of American Sniper author Chris Kyle. He says that Kyle told him a story about him in a book that was a lie and that Kyle profited from that. WCCO's Jeff Wagner shows us why Ventura feels vindicated and ready for a new start.
I'm smiling. Does that... Everyone see the smile?
That ear-to-ear grin represents what Jesse Ventura feels is a somewhat happy ending to a 5-year ordeal, which he says began with a lie.
This was fake news, people, and this was fake news at its finest.
In 2012, former Navy SEAL Chris Kyle released a memoir titled American Sniper, detailing his deadly and distinguished years in the military. It also included a story where he punched a man who said derogatory remarks about the SEALs in 2006.
Personal story segment tonight.
Kyle later identified that man as Ventura.
Now, you don't mention his name, but everybody knows who that is. Number one, that happened? You knocked him out?
Yeah, well, I knocked him down.
Knocked him down.
The former governor says it never happened and filed a defamation lawsuit in 2012. Ventura won the case and was awarded nearly $2 million, but another court overturned the decision. A second trial was in the works until both sides reached a settlement.
You don't pay if you're innocent. You go to court. That's what I did. And if you're the other side and you do pay, that tells you who is telling the truth right there.
Despite his victory, Ventura says Kyle's story and the process of vindicating himself damaged his reputation.
To me, the truth meant more than money. My reputation meant more than money.
He added that the book's publisher, HarperCollins, never apologized.
I'll end by just saying my apology is in the bank.
We reached out to HarperCollins. A representative told us they have no comment on this matter. Ventura says the settlement details are confidential. He added, though, that now he's been vindicated, a return to politics is possible.
Oh my, all right, we'll stay tuned. He's never boring. Thank you, Jeff.
Chris Kyle, deadliest sniper in American history, author of American Sniper, the best-selling book, which became...
Is he the deadliest sniper in American history?
Okay, well, that's how he's regarded.
No, that's what he alleges.
Okay.
I don't know if he is or not, but he wrote a chapter on me that's a complete fabricated lie.
So he, to give that context, said in the book that he punched, somebody at a bar, later said publicly that person was you. What was your reaction when you first heard that?
Well, I was in Mexico off the grid, so I couldn't react to it. I heard about it from an email from my son, and I had to contact Alex Jones, my friend in Texas, to defend me. I was out of the country. Timing was perfect on it, wasn't it? Right after I left the country, so I couldn't defend myself. The story is a complete fabricated lie. I did what you're supposed to do. Go to court, put people under oath, and prove it. We proved it. In court, the jury ruled for me, and I haven't made a nickel of this. And the estate of Chris Kyle hasn't paid a cent. Insurance company pays for all of it. So when the media portrays me as going after a widow and her children, that's a lie. I sued Chris Kyle. He died. It automatically goes to his estate then, the lawsuit. She chose to be the executor. She hadn't had to pay a cent, all paid by an insurance company.
Was there any communication between when Kyle initially made the public comments and when you filed the lawsuit between the two of you?
No, I didn't even know him. My first recollection of Chris Kyle was June of 2012 at the first settlement hearing.
What happened there?
He had made a statement that if we met together that we could solve the whole thing, so the courts allowed us to meet in a room together one-on-one. And I looked at him and I said, how can you say you hit me? You never hit me. And he said, yes, I did. I turned to the judge. I said, we're done right now. I said, if this guy's not going to admit it never happened, then what's the point? I offered to him. I said, if you'll go out with me to the media, admit you fabricated the story, I will forgive you and we'll go our separate ways. He wouldn't do it. He didn't have the honor. He didn't have, this hero from the war didn't have the courage to tell the truth. And he's not a hero. You know why? He's a backstabbing liar. He hoarded the trident for money and fame. He took an old timer like me and threw me under the bus so he could get money. And the point is, he's not a hero. You know why he's not a hero?
What?
Because heroes have to have honor. You have to have honor to be a hero. A liar has no honor. Follow me?
Why do you think there were several other SEALs that backed up his story?
They didn't. If you come to the trial, there wasn't one witness that heard me say what they said on the stand. There wasn't one witness on the stand who said they saw him hit me. All they were doing was relaying hearsay from their buddy. Remember, if you'll die for someone, you'll lie for them.
When you two had that meeting, the attempted settlement meeting, what do you think his goal was with it?
To be rich and famous. He had to take the most, I guess, the highest profile member of the community and throw him under the bus. Because his book went, you know what the pre-sale was of that book? 4,000. When he went on Opening Anthony and O'Reilly and told that lie, it jumped 100,000 in one day. One day. Even the book company, HarperCollins, admitted it was a niche book. All of a sudden, I was the catalyst. It was like a jet or a rocket going into space. You have to have a booster that gets you to space, and then once you're in space, you can orbit. I was the booster rocket.
Famous Navy SEAL who authored Lone Survivor, which has also become a movie, when this was all going on, posted a picture of you with the caption, "Hit me, I won't fight back. I'll just wait for you to die and sue your wife."
Who wrote that?
The author of Lone Survivor.
Really? The guy who I secured from Hell Week? I'm in his book, you know. I was the first civilian they allowed to secure Hell Week. He wrote that about me, huh? That's despicable on his part, because I sued Chris Kyle for lying. See, doesn't the lie mean anything? And he's assuming I got hit. I didn't. Didn't I prove it in court?
How much did the backlash get to you?
A lot. I don't care to say I'm a SEAL anymore. I won't go to a reunion ever again. It's hurt a great deal because I used to always go to reunions. I used to contribute money. None of that'll all stop now because nobody from the community has come forward to support me, and I'm an innocent victim.
And
it would be the equivalent of me throwing a WW2 frogman under the bus. This Iraq guy throws a Vietnam guy under the bus. Really? That's what the guy that wrote Lone Survivor said about me? He should be ashamed of himself.
What do you think the likelihood is of being able to repair everything, to make amends with the kind of SEAL brotherhood?
Never. Well, the SEALs like to pride themselves that they've never left a body behind. They have now, me. I was left behind now. I'm a POW SEAL who was left behind, and they did nothing to recover me. That's how I feel about it. That's how betrayed I feel.
You sued Chris Kyle's estate.
Well, him first.
Him first,
and then it
that's right.
automatically reverts to the estate on his tragic death, yeah.
Right. And so American Sniper, and I've had a lot of choice words to say about him. And so people get mad at me for, oh, he's a hero. Yeah, okay, he served. Jesse, you ever served with anyone that didn't tell the truth before? My guess is there's a decent number of people that are human beings that serve who don't tell the truth.
In the Navy, it's called sea stories. They have a term for it.
Yeah.
It's very well known in the Navy. It's called a sea story.
Yeah. So having nothing to do with your lawsuit, Chris Kyle was not sitting on top of the Superdome shooting random people in the middle of Hurricane Katrina. Of course he wasn't. That's an obvious lie, right? So there's so many things
Not
he says.
to him.
Yeah. So you sued him because he lied about you.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what the law is there for.
It never happened, and it literally destroyed my public career.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was off the grid at the time the story broke, living off the grid in Mexico. I couldn't defend myself. All I could do was Skype my attorney and bring a lawsuit immediately to stop it. And then I didn't return until May. And by then the damage had all been done. I lost my television show over it, Conspiracy Theory, over that. I could not get any employment in the United States because of it. I was a pariah for defending myself, and all the time they portrayed it that I would, after he died, that I was going after the widow and the children, which wasn't true, because anyone that's written a book, in the contract, any lawsuits are handled by the publishing company, and they have insurance, and they have their lawyers to handle that. So the family was never in jeopardy of losing anything, and I wasn't out for money. I was out to clear my name. And he wouldn't do it when I met him face to face. He did, for all the courage he had, he didn't have the courage to tell the truth.
So he had said that you had started a fight with him?
No, he said that what happened was we were there together. That event occurred. I was there because in the tradition of the UDT SEAL community, when every 100 classes, I'm class 58, well, I came to the graduation of class 158. That was back in about the year 1990, roughly, I think. And this was now going to be the graduation of class 258 tomorrow. So I flew out to San Diego to attend their graduation. So McPease is the watering hole for all the SEALs in Coronado. So the night before I went there, I met friends there. We sat at a table. Well, Kyle and his group were there also. They were there in a wake for one of their comrades who was killed in the Iraq War. And they were there for a completely different reason than we were. And they also had an $1,100 drinking budget. That they drank, their bill that night was $1,100 for the Kyle group. Do you think they were intoxicated?
Yep. And so what did he say happened?
My group was not. Nothing happened. I took pictures with people. Nothing occurred. The next day I went to the graduation. The graduation happened. The following day we had a get-together Saturday on the beach of my class of classmates from old. And I went home. Never occurred to me. And then in the year 2012, this book comes out where he alleges that I said Navy SEALs deserve to die and lose a few. Now, why would I say that about my own unit? If I believed that, why would I be there honoring a graduating class? Makes no sense. He then said that I bowed up to fight him and that he decked me, knocked me down, and then ran so he wouldn't get caught. Well, in the trial, no one testified they saw me get hit. Not even his buddies could say it. Nobody testified that I said anything like that they heard me do that.
That's why you won.
That's why, and think of that for a moment. He's now gone and the trial automatically goes to his estate to clear my name. How overwhelming must the evidence have been for the jury to have sided with me over the widow of the dead war veteran? But they did.
And the jury didn't know that the insurance is paying for it. They thought it's coming out of the estate, and they sided with you anyway.
No, but they did learn that because the federal judge allowed it in at the end of the trial. Because why? They did what was called poor-mouthing, which is an exception. Normally, they don't allow the jury to know that insurance is involved. But if the other side poor-mouths, if they get on the stand and say, oh, this is strapping me financially, when it's not, that's what they did. They led the jury to believe that I was hurting the family to lower so they'd win the case.
Right.
Well, then the judge still wouldn't let it in because we appealed to him. They're poor-mouthing. Wouldn't still let it in. Finally, 2 people from HarperCollins, the book company, came to testify to diminish my role in the book, right? So I wouldn't get a big award. Well, at that point, they're the ones providing the insurance. At that point, the federal judge ruled it can come in limited now. That's too big of a conflict of interest. Right. When they're the ones providing the insurance and they're here testifying to maybe change or lower the award. So what happened, it was 4 questions in an 11-day trial. It was a half a page of a final summation of 20 pages. And the appeals court overturned it on that and said the jury was poisoned, even though they admitted the award wasn't out of line. And that's supposed to be taken into consideration too. Now, when the award's out of line is when they award $140 million. I won 1.83.
So, look, the case is interesting in and of its own right. The case is interesting because you've got 2 really big personalities that Americans know. You, Chris Kyle. So it gets a lot of attention. But actually, the most important part of the case is the appeal. Because then the media companies came
into the case
and against you
yes,
during
wanting
the appeal.
It overturned.
Why?
Because I won on defamation and what's called unjust enrichment, that they made money by defaming me, which they did. We proved in court. Do you know what Kyle's book sales was the day before he said what he said about me? 2,000. Do you know what the book sales was? It came out in the courtroom. You know what it was a day later? 100,000.
You mean when that controversy broke? Okay.
In one day, it went from 2,000 to 102,000. Pre-sale was 2,000, and then he comes out with this revelation that he punched me out in a bar, and it jumped 100,000. And HarperCollins went so far as they then continued it. They wanted it rolling. We got their emails where they say, this is hot, hot, hot. We got to, ride this. Who ever expected? Even they never expected. It was a niche book. It then soared to #1 on the New York Times bestseller list. Well, guess who the booster rocket was that took it there? What he did to me.
Right. And so, again, the media companies...
they even made it to where if you typed my name in on the internet, it automatically went to the Kyle story. Now, they don't have a right to do that with my name on the internet.
Jesse, look, I know you've gotten a ton of heat for it.
Oh.
Okay, but it's here, you don't have to convince anybody because I know the guy's a notorious liar. Okay, that book is riddled with lies. So, am I surprised that he made up a story about you, a guy who pretends to have shot people from the top of the Superdome? Of course,
you don't confront me in a hotel in New York and scream at me in front of me and all the public.
You get that all the time now, right?
Not all the time, but I get it.
Now we come to the charity donations controversy. Some sources claimed Kyle's family had said all of his book proceeds were donated to veterans charities. However, Salon and National Review disputed the donation amount, asserting that around 2% or $52,000 went to the charities while Kyle's family received $3 million. Now we get into the fabrications of personal narratives. Apart from the story of his attack on Jesse Ventura, Kyle stated his involvement in a number of incidents which were unverifiable and which some sources have called into question, describing them as unlikely. First, we have the shooting looters in New Orleans. Kyle stated that during Hurricane Katrina, after hearing about the civilian strife in the area, he and another man drove to New Orleans to stop looters. With sniper rifles, they allegedly traveled to New Orleans and then positioned themselves at transit advantage point on top of the city's Mercedes-Benz Superdome. There, Kyle claimed that they started shooting a number of armed residents or looters whom they identified as making trouble. Some reports stated that Kyle shot 30 with the other sniper, and others saying he shot 30 by himself. This was never verified, and there is no evidence of dozens of people being slain by a sniper or gunman, with commentators noting that it would be unlikely that 30 people would have been murdered without anyone noticing it or reporting it to the media or the police. Kyle's story had been reported in a number of publications, including The New Yorker, with Kyle relating the story to other military personnel. According to Schmidl's 2013 article, when Schmidl tried to corroborate the story with SOCOM, he was told no SEALs from the West Coast were sent to New Orleans after Katrina. Kyle's officer told the writer he never heard that story, and another SEAL told him Kyle's story of murdering Americans on American soil defies the imagination. It's hard to argue with that. Next, we have the infamous gas station robbery story. Kyle also related a story of how he was robbed at a gas station in January of 2009 southwest of Dallas. During the robbery, Kyle told the two men he would return to his car to give them his keys. He picked up a gun and shot both robbers dead. Police allegedly let Kyle go because they were told by someone high up in the government what a valuable asset he was. The only reminder of the incident, says Kyle, was the occasional email he received from law enforcement thanking him for cleaning up the streets. However, there is no evidence the incident occurred. There was never any police reports or mention of the incident, and police contacted by journalists were completely unaware of the incident. The incident did not appear in the media, and a journalist visited all the service stations that could match the description, and none of them were aware of it happening. The medical examiner's office had no records of anyone being killed in the area at the time, and Kyle claimed there was security footage, and that when police officers approached him about the killings, he redirected them to the government, and so Kyle was never charged. There's also the fact that he embellished his records. In 2016, the Navy clarified the number of medals Kyle was awarded during his military service. Kyle had claimed in his book that he was awarded 2 Silver Stars and 5 Bronze Stars. Those numbers differed slightly from the Navy personnel form given to Kyle when he left the Navy in 2009. The form says he received 2 Silver Star and 6 Bronze Star medals with V devices. At that time, the Navy also noted that his form given to Kyle on his retirement was not accurate, and he had actually been awarded 1 Silver Star and 4 Bronze Stars medals with V devices for valor. The discrepancy raises new questions about Kyle's credibility and highlights a continuing controversy in the SEAL community over members exaggerating or distorting their war records. In one high-profile controversy, 2 members of SEAL Team 6 engaged in a public dispute over who deserved credit for the fatal shots that killed Osama bin Laden. Within the military community, embellishing medals and achievements, so-called stolen valor, is considered a serious ethical violation. In 1996, Admiral Jeremy Border, who was then the highest-ranking uniformed naval officer, committed suicide after questions were raised about 2 valor pins known as devices he wore on his uniform for services during the Vietnam War. It was later determined that he was not authorized to wear the V devices. Kyle's exploits in Iraq during the height of the war have taken on almost mythical proportions, and many of his fellow soldiers regard his actions during his 4 deployments in Iraq as heroic. During the November 2004 American siege of Fallujah, for example, Kyle saved an injured Marine's life by dragging him to safety while taking and returning fire down an alleyway. The 2004 incident resulted in a Bronze Star with Valor, one of 3 that Kyle was awarded. That action was recommended by his commanding officers for a Silver Star, but it was denied by the Secretary of the Navy at the time. Kyle was aware that the Silver Star was denied according to his autobiography and did not count it among the 2 Silver Stars he claimed to receive. He did not say in the book what either of those Silver Stars were for. Retired Army Lieutenant Colonel Robert Bateman, a military historian, said that public reports of stolen valor became more common in the decade after the Vietnam War. Bateman also said it was inexcusable that Kyle or any other veteran would inflate his record, even if the veteran, like Kyle, had demonstrated clear heroism during his service. Resume inflation may be less of a scandal for civilians, Bateman said, but for those in the military, some elements are paid in blood. A retired SEAL officer said several of Kyle's commanding officers were aware that he had misrepresented how many decorations he had collected. The retired officer attended the ceremony for Kyle's single Silver Star, which was awarded to him for his 2006 deployment in Ramadi, Iraq. During 32 sniper Overwatch missions, the citation reads, he personally accounted for 91 confirmed enemy fighters killed. When asked if he'd been aware of Kyle's inaccurate accounting of his awards, Jocko Willink, one of Kyle's former commanding officers, said, and I quote, "Chris Kyle, like many of the SEALs, soldiers, and Marines I had the honor to serve with, deserve much more than whatever ribbons and medals they received." End quote. Another former commanding officer, Leif Babin, I do apologize if I get that name wrong, declined to comment. Wilnick and Babin co-authored a book, Extreme Ownership, which details their time commanding SEALs in Iraq. It includes a section about Kyle's prowess as a sniper, but does not tally his medals. Then we have the inflated number of confirmed kills of Chris Kyle. Kyle had also claimed a higher number of sniper kills in his service than the Navy has officially attributed to him. While Kyle claims to have killed roughly 320 enemies as part of his service in Iraq, the Navy says he only killed 160. The Navy's numbers would be of confirmed kills, which are only the kills that are able to be confirmed on the battlefield. Kyle stated that the Navy's numbers varied time to time. Then there was the story about protesters called him a baby killer. In Kyle's book, he claims he saw war protesters carrying signs that said baby killer, which is a bunch of bull, according to Michael McCaffrey, who combed through American Sniper for inaccuracies. McCaffrey questions the story because, quote, "that would also make not only the local news, but national news, and other vets would have reported the same thing on their own websites or chat rooms. None of that happened." End quote. Instead, McCaffrey alleges Kyle is repeating an urban myth from the Vietnam era. There's also the story about the time that he found chemical weapons in Iraq that came from France and Germany. Another allegation from McCaffrey centers on a short passage in Kyle's book in which he writes, "We've found barrels of chemical material that was intended for use as biochemical weapons, and writing on the barrels showed that the chemicals came from France and Germany." End quote. McCaffrey writes that this story is a lie because there is no proof or evidence that this incident occurred. Now we get to the murder of Chris Kyle. On February 2nd of 2013, Kyle and his friend Chad Littlefield, 35, were shot and killed by Eddie Ray Routh at the Rough Creek Ranch Lodge Resort Shooting Ranch in Routh County, Texas. Both Kyle and Littlefield were armed with .45 caliber M1911 style pistols when they were killed, but neither gun had been unholstered or fired, and the safety catches were still on. Kyle was killed with a .45 caliber pistol, while Littlefield was shot with a 9mm Sig Sauer P226 MK25 Mod 0 pistol. Both guns belonged to Kyle. Kyle had begun working with veterans after leaving the military. Ruth's mother, who worked at the school that Kyle's children attended, had heard of his work and asked him to help her son. He agreed to take Ruth to a shooting range which Kyle believed had therapeutic value. Ruth was a 25-year-old U.S. Marine Corps veteran from Lancaster, Texas. Kyle and Littlefield had reportedly taken Ruth to the gun range in an effort to help him with his post-traumatic stress disorder PTSD, which he suffered from his time in the military. Ruth had also been in and out of mental hospitals for at least 2 years and had been diagnosed with schizophrenia, although he stated his motive did not involve any symptoms typically associated with a disability, such as hallucinations or delusions. On the way to the shooting range, Kyle texted Littlefield, quote, "This dude is straight up nuts," end quote, and Littlefield replied with, quote, "watch my six," end quote, military slang meaning watch my back. 4 months later, while he was in his jail cell, Ruth shared with former Routh County Sheriff's Deputy Gene Cole, quote, "I was just riding in the back seat of the truck and nobody would talk to me. They were just taking me to the range, so I shot them. I feel bad about it, but they wouldn't talk to me. I'm sure they've forgiven me," end quote. Kyle had been shot 6 times, including a rapidly fatal bullet to the back that pierced his aorta and another to the jaw that caused a severe spinal cord injury. Littlefield was hit 7 times, including 4 that would have been instantly fatal. One of the gunshot wounds was to the top of the head, indicating it was likely fired while Littlefield was already on the ground. Crime scene photos shown in court showed Kyle lying on the dirt in front of an elevated deck from which rifles were fired at yards of up to 1,000 yards away. Littlefield lay on the same deck nearby. After the killings, Ruth first went to Taco Bell and bought some burritos, then went to his sister's house in Midlothian and told her what he had done. His sister, Laura Blevins, called 911 and told the emergency operator, quote, "They went out to a shooting range. Like, he's crazy. He's psychotic." End quote. After that, Ruth drove to his home and picked up his dog. Local police first distracted Ruth by speaking to him, where he spoke irrationally about hell, the end of the world, and voodoo. After Ruth drove away over a failed attempt to use spike strips, police captured Ruth after a short freeway chase, which ended when Ruth, who fled the scene in Kyle's Ford F-350 truck, crashed into a police cruiser in Lancaster. Now we get into who Eddie Ray Routh was. So Eddie Ray Routh was born on September 30th of 1987 in Lancaster, Texas, to Raymond and Jody Routh. He had wanted to join the Marine Corps since he was 13 years old and did so after high school. He was deployed to a base near Baghdad in September of 2007, where he worked for 6 months as a prison guard and repaired weapons. In January of 2010, he was sent on a humanitarian mission to Haiti. He was honorably discharged from the Marine Corps in July of 2011 after serving for 7 years. In late July of 2011, Routh was diagnosed by clinicians at a veterans hospital as having post-traumatic stress disorder and was prescribed antipsychotics and antidepressants. He was experiencing auditory hallucinations and paranoia and had threatened suicide. VA clinicians believe Routh's psychotic symptoms were caused by alcohol abuse and offered inpatient treatment. He denied and stopped taking his medication. Now we get to the trial and the murder of Chris Kyle and his friend. Routh was arraigned on February 2nd of 2013 on 2 counts of capital murder and was taken to the Routh County Jail for holding under a $3 million bond. His trial was set to begin on May 5th of 2014, but was delayed to allow more time to comply with DNA testing requirements. The trial began on February 11th of 2015. Routh's attorneys argued that he was insane at the time of the murders. Forensic psychologist Randall Price, a witness for the prosecution, suspected Routh was faking schizophrenia. He said that Routh had actually had paranoid personality disorder exacerbated by drug use. He also testified that Routh's psychotic symptoms could be attributed to drug and alcohol abuse. Another expert, Dr. Michael Arambula, sorry if I get that name wrong, testified he did not believe Routh was schizophrenic and was not insane at the time of the murders because he was intoxicated. On February 24th of 2015, Routh was found guilty of murdering Kyle and Littlefield. The jury returned the verdict after fewer than 3 hours of deliberations. The trial judge, Jason Cash, immediately sentenced Routh to life in prison with no possibility of parole. Routh currently imprisoned at the Texas Department of Criminal Justice Ramsey Unit in Brazoria County, Texas. Now we get into the funerals of Chris Kyle and his friend. A memorial service was held for Kyle at Cowboy Stadium in Arlington, Texas on February 11th of 2013. He was buried on February 12th of 2013 at the Texas State Cemetery in Austin. After the funeral cortege journeyed from Midlothian to Austin more than 200 miles or 320 kilometers, hundreds of people, many waving American flags, lined into State 35 to view the procession and pay their final respects to Kyle. Littlefield's funeral was held on February 8th of 2013 at the First Baptist Church of Midlothian, Texas. He was buried at Mount Zion Cemetery. Now we get into Chris Kyle's legacy. In August of 2013, Texas Governor Rick Perry signed Senate Bill 162, also known as the Chris Kyle Bill, to recognize military training in the issuance of occupational licenses. The bill had been co-sponsored by Republican Representatives Dan Flint of Van and Democratic Senator Letka Van Depute of San Antonio. I'm sorry if I get that name wrong. The ceremony was attended by Kyle's widow, Taya. Sculptor Greg Mara created a memorial statue of Kyle for his presentation to his widow. Fundraising for production of the statue was provided by members of the Tea Party movement. In 2013, a Texas teacher, Dana Morris, attempted to get a section of Highway 75 through Dallas named after Chris Kyle, but was unsuccessful. In 2015, Morris made another attempt to get a road named after Chris Kyle and Chad Littlefield. During the 84th Texas legislative session, HB 1187 was introduced by Representative John Ray from Ellis County due to the efforts of Dana Morris using grassroots efforts to show her students that they did have a voice in their government. The bill was co-sponsored by 53 Republican congressional leaders. Littlefield's name was removed from the original bill due to his widow's wishes. The bill was changed to only reflect Chris Kyle's name. A twin bill, HB 3, was put forth in the Senate by Senator Brian Birdwell in case HB 1187 did not pass through the Texas House vote. On May 20th of 2015, HB 1187 passed both the House and the Senate. The Chris Kyle Memorial Highway Bill was signed into law by Governor Greg Abbott on June 3rd of 2015 in Dallas, Texas. Abbott said to Morris, quote, "This was a great project for students and will leave a fundamental legacy in their learning about government," end quote. The law became official on September 1st of 2015. On February 16th of 2016, signs for the 11-mile stretch of Highway 287 through Midlothian, Texas were unveiled. A subsequent bill was passed in 2018 to name a plaza and road after Chris Kyle in the town he was raised, Midlothian, Texas. Clint Eastwood's film American Sniper came out in 2014, is based on Kyle's autobiography. Kyle is portrayed by Bradley Cooper and his wife Taya Kyle is portrayed by Sienna Miller. For his portrayal of Kyle, Cooper received an Academy Award nomination for Best Actor, and the film was nominated in 5 other categories including Best Picture. The film won the Academy Award for Best Sound Editing. On February 2nd of 2015, exactly 2 years after Kyle's murder, Texas Governor Greg Abbott declared the day Chris Kyle Day. A privately funded memorial for Kyle was built in Odessa, Texas, was unveiled on July 28th of 2016. It includes a plaza and a bronze statue. With that, this case remains open, but with many unanswered questions that still remain unanswered. Please rate the show and let me know what you guys think about this and the many other cases I've covered. You can follow me on all major social media platforms, YouTube, BitChute, Dailymotion. I'm also on Twitter and Instagram, links are all down below in the description. If you have a case you'd like me to have a look at or cover, don't hesitate to send me a message. I'm your host, and this has been the Unanswered Questions Podcast. Until next time. Next on Unanswered Question. A Fabergé egg is a jeweled egg created by the jewelry firm House of Fabergé in St. Petersburg, Russia. As many as 69 were created, of which 57 survive today.